Today on the I Still Smell Like the 1980s Drew Says podcast, I will be discussing YouTube's attempts to get further into podcasting and other stuff too, so go ahead and stick around. All right, if it sounds like I'm recording in a wind tunnel, it's kind of because I am. There is a lot of wind. It sounds as though my studio is going to blow over. So if a bunch of dust, if a bunch of glass comes shooting into frame, don't be alarmed. That's expected. Let's start with the news. It was announced on the 23rd of February, 2023 by YouTube's head of podcasting that they are going to be adding audio podcasts to the YouTube Music app. In this article from The Verge, they also state that YouTube Music will have free ad-supported background listening for podcasts. Let me repeat that. Free ad-supported background listening for podcasts. We will come back to this because that is big. Next, The Verge points out that YouTube has 80 million subscribers for its music and premium services. I am highlighting a lot of words verbally here because I think those are the really important aspects of what they are saying. And also, they point out Spotify has 200 million paid subs, YouTube proper has 2 billion users, and YouTube is not looking to add exclusive shows or licensed originals at this time. There is a lot to unpack and discuss here. First off, this is YouTube Music, not YouTube proper. So if you're a podcaster thinking, oh goody, I have 2 billion new potential listeners because that's how many people are active on YouTube, keep your expectations in check. Because this is YouTube Music. This is a separate app from YouTube proper. We don't have the active user numbers for YouTube Music, but I can assure you it is less than 2 billion. There are less than 2 billion people with the YouTube Music app. Secondly, 80 million paid users between YouTube Music and YouTube's premium services. It doesn't specify how many active users they have for YouTube Music, but more importantly, they don't differentiate between YouTube Music premium subscribers and YouTube Premium subscribers. There's a difference there. If somebody subscribes to YouTube Music, they are going to have the YouTube Music app. If somebody is a YouTube Premium subscriber, they have the YouTube app. They probably signed up to get ad-free viewing of YouTube, and they may never have downloaded or even heard of YouTube Music. Case in point, as I point it myself, because I have been a YouTube Premium subscriber back before when it was YouTube Red, since day one. I have never downloaded the YouTube Music app because I have zero desire to. The only reason I pay for YouTube Premium is ad-free viewing. So if you see this 80 million paid user statistic and think, oh, goody, 80 million people who have disposable income, and clearly they love audio enough to pay for it. So if my podcast gets in front of them, maybe I can monetize them. Pump the brakes, keep your expectations in check. Who knows how many of those 80 million are strictly YouTube Music subscribers because they lump together YouTube Music and YouTube Premium services. And third, and arguably most important, they said free ad-supported background listening. What does this sound like to you? I'll pause for a second and let you think about it. Free ad-supported background listening. To me, that sounds like they are going to play ads on podcasts. That sounds like a good thing, right? That's great. Good, great, grand. You can earn money on your podcasts. But how are podcasters going to be compensated for this? Are they going to require podcasters to submit their RSS feeds to YouTube Music? Is that how it's going to function? Or is YouTube going to go out and scrape some existing podcast directory and pull in all those RSS feeds? Is that how it's going to work? Because if they are scraping podcast directories, pulling in all those shows, and then running ads on them, How are they going to compensate those podcasters? There may be some conflicts there. On top of that, YouTube does not host these audio files. These are all self-hosted by podcasters, or they are hosted on services that are paid for by the podcasters. The reason I'm pointing that out, these shows that are going to be listened to on YouTube Music are not moderated by YouTube. Do you see the issue here? YouTube is very strict with their ad placement. So how are they going to run ads on podcasts that might have objectionable material, that might not follow YouTube's ad guidelines, that may be so edgy that they were kicked off of YouTube? Is YouTube going to pull in all of these shows and exclude certain shows from being able to be listened to in YouTube Music? Are they going to scrape every single piece of audio that somebody tries to listen to determine if it is acceptable to run ads on it? Because if they are running ads on podcasts, and it is YouTube, it is Google, they are going to be under the same amount of scrutiny that YouTube proper is under. And there are a lot of extremely objectionable, I shouldn't say objectionable, there are a lot of shows that do not follow YouTube's ad-friendly guidelines. There are a lot of podcasts that would make YouTube quake in their boots. Oh my God, they said something like that? Oh no! So this is going to be a dangerous road if they go down it. It's going to be very interesting. Are they requiring podcasters to submit their show to YouTube Music, thereby providing YouTube the right, the authority to place ads on your show? Is YouTube going to compensate podcasters for ads played against their audio podcast? How is YouTube going to handle edgy content that does not follow their ad-friendly guidelines? How will background play work for shows that do not have ads on them? Will you be unable to listen to explicit shows in the background because they can't run ads? So many questions about this. They are making some bold decisions here, and I just don't understand it. I get what they want to do. They want to have the YouTube of podcasting. I don't think they've found it out yet. I don't think they understand what they're doing. I don't think they are on the right path yet. What I would love to see is if they allowed a podcaster to start a YouTube channel, input your RSS feed, and then instead of the video player, it would just be an audio player. An audio player with some form of dynamic visualizer. You could still have the timeline, so you would still have timestamps. And then the audio podcasters could have all of the benefits of YouTube's, all of their services, all of their features. The thumbs up, the thumbs down, the subscribe, the share, the comments would be huge. And then on top of that, the discoverability. And if YouTube went down this road, they might be able to shift this expectation of users to only expect visual content. If they brought in audio, of course, if they did this, it would need to be the podcaster setting up the YouTube channel and giving YouTube the authority to create that page. That's how it would have to work. But if they did that, I think a bunch of audio podcasters would jump on it. Here's my RSS feed. I want the comments. I want the likes. I want the subscribe. I want the discoverability. Give me all of that. But as it stands right now, I don't understand this move. Because you can get any number of podcatchers on your device, and they're free, and they don't force ads down your throat. So in what world would you decide, oh, I can listen to a podcast without the podcatcher shoving ads down my throat? But instead of doing that and having a better listening experience, I'm going to go download YouTube Music and be force-fed ads just so I can listen in the background. I have a secret for everybody who's into podcasts. If you don't use YouTube Music, you can have background play without ads. It's a beautiful thing. It's one of the greatest things about podcasting. You don't need ads to have background play. You don't need ads at all. Unless the host of the show reads the ads, it's a wonderful, wonderful medium. There are so many questions, and I don't see the answers yet. I am going to be watching this closely because I am very confused about what they're trying to do and how successful and or unsuccessful this is going to be. I will link the Verge article because I think it was some kind of exclusive that the Verge got. So go ahead and check that out in the episode notes if you want to read a little bit more. Next, this is something that I am going to keep my eye on, and I think you should keep your eye on. But as of now, there's not enough news, there's not enough breaking information to share it with you. Breaking. None of that. Currently, the Supreme Court, yes, the United States Supreme Court, is hearing arguments about Section 230 regarding Google and Twitter, the recommendation algorithms, people becoming extremists because they watched a piece of content on YouTube or saw some tweets on Twitter, and they are hearing arguments. This could have a big impact on the internet as a whole, because Section 230 allows websites to not be sued for user-generated content. I don't know what's going to happen with it, but just based on that very top-level description, you can tell how much this could impact. Pretty much all the content on YouTube is user-generated. All podcasts are user-generated. All tweets are user-generated. So if companies lose the ability or the protection from being sued for what a user posts, the entire internet, the entire landscape of content creation will change. So go ahead, look that up if you want to. I'm going to be watching for more information and more movement, and when that comes out, I will discuss it. Okay, what I've been testing, I'm still using the exact same setup. I just threw the provided foam windscreen on. This is the Lewitt MTP 950 WCM thing. Okay. Let's jump to what you had to say. First comment comes from Dan. He says, people who build their careers on YouTube should understand from the start who they're dealing with. Soon as you say something that they don't like, they could very easily pull the plug on your channel by slowing the growth and visibility, suspending or terminating it outright, especially if your politics don't align with theirs. The thing that people hate the most is the sneaky secrecy of shadow banning, and they don't let the user know why they are doing it or what caused it, when or if or what they can do to stop it. Dan, I am shocked to say that I am in complete agreement with you. If you are somebody who is looking to upload to YouTube or any platform for that matter with the intention of launching a business or starting your career, you certainly should not go in blind. You need to do your research, understand where you're uploading to, and make an informed and educated decision. Who is the CEO? What is their track record? Who are the managers and what is their management style? What kind of moderation is done on the platform? What kind of monetization strategies are there? What are the growth projections for that platform? If there are content creators similar to you, what has their experience been? Is there a lot of growth? Is there a lot of money? Is it risky? Do they get banned a lot? What kind of regulation is risking that platform? What kind of politicians are talking about regulating the platform? These are all things that you need to consider before making the extremely risky decision to build your business on somebody else's platform. This isn't exclusive to online. This isn't exclusive to the e-marketplace. You would do this exact same thing if you were looking to start a real-world business, to open a brick-and-mortar store. You would look at the property manager, at the landlord. Who are they? What is their track record? Are they successful in running their properties? What do their tenants have to say about them? Are they lenient? Do they evict people a lot? What is the neighborhood you're looking to open your business in? What are the demographics? What is the income breakdown? Do people live paycheck to paycheck or have a lot of disposable income? Who is the politician responsible for the district you're opening your business in? These are all things that are very similar to the online marketplace, because all of these factors impact a brick and mortar store just like all of the factors that I just discussed impact online content creation. But for some reason, when it comes to online businesses, the reason I put businesses in air quotes is because I don't view my YouTube channels as businesses, but a lot of people, when they're starting their online businesses, don't really think of it the same way as they would think of it if they were opening a brick and mortar store. They're much more lenient. They're much more risky with their decision making. And that needs to change. That is why I have been such a big advocate for owning your own space online. Because then you aren't at the whims of the moderation staff at that moment. You aren't at the whims of ever-changing policy. You aren't at the whims of politicians coming in and regulating the platform that you're on. That's why I think every single content creator should have their own website, have their own domain, like bandrewsays.com, podcastage.com, geeksrising.com, bandrewscott.com, watchcastage.com. Yes, I have a lot of domains, but those are all spaces that I own and spaces that I control. For the most part. I don't own every single aspect of them, so I could still technically be deplatformed. I could still technically be taken down, but by having these websites, if I get kicked off of YouTube, if YouTube shuts down, if Instagram or Twitter shuts down, people still know where to find me because I promote these URLs, maybe not as much as I should, but I promote them, so people will know where to find me. So if you are somebody who is looking to start your business and launch your career, research the platform, understand what the future of that platform may hold, and also make sure that you have a spot to exist online if the platform you're building on ceases to exist, because if the past tells us anything, these platforms are not forever. Look at MySpace, look at LiveJournal, look at Friendster. These are all websites which we thought would reign supreme forever. MySpace was the biggest thing in the world. And it lasted, 4 or 5 years? So as impossible as it seems, YouTube doesn't seem like it could disappear, but it could. It could very easily disappear. If the Section 230 stuff goes the wrong direction, YouTube, Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, all of these social media sites could disappear, depending on the ruling on Section 230 in the Supreme Court. To me, that's extremely concerning, but it's a good thing that I have been building up these websites for years and years. I have been promoting these URLs for years and years. So as long as URLs aren't confiscated, I can just redirect any of these URLs to wherever I am next. I can keep my own website. But if I don't have a website anymore, I can just have podcastage.com linked to newvideosite.com and /podcastage whenever that goes up. Or I can host my own videos and keep up my own website. Another added benefit to having my own website is I don't have anybody else moderating it. And on YouTube, that is a big issue. When moderation action is taken, they don't communicate why it was taken, or where you violated policy. They don't say policy X was violated at 1 minute 32 seconds on this video. They should, but they don't. I understand a bit of the opacity or the opaqueness of their policy because they don't want people to learn how to move around it. They don't want people to be able to bypass it or trick the system. But if they want people to continue to be able to successfully build careers on their platform, they should communicate more. So I agree with you on all parts. People need to research and understand what they're uploading to. They can't go in blindly because that is terrible business practices. They need to understand the forecast, the projections of the platform, understand the regulatory risks of the platform, and they need to understand the moderation risks. It would be amazing if moderation action was communicated clearly, but as it stands, it is not. And as long as we continue to play in YouTube's playground, we are at the whims of their moderation staff. They should improve it. They don't have any incentive to. They don't have any incentive because there's still no competition. There's no real competition for long-form content yet. I think I saw something about TikTok wanting to get into long-form video, but there you go. That is my response. Do your research, make an educated decision. Do not go into an online business or an online career blindly. Thank you very much for the comment, Dan. I appreciate you. Next, we have a comment from Sound Speeds. He says, the length of the interference tube is part of the reason why the shotgun mic could have more reach. The Sanken CS3E is very directional and has impressive reach despite being a short shotgun. The vent width, depth, and placement on the side of the shotgun, placement of the capsule within the shotgun, and engineering behind the interference tube and capsule is more of a full answer. Yes, the length of a shotgun does play a big part of it. There's ways of creating reach without a long interference tube. Granted, you'll get a lot more reach easier with a long shotgun mic though. Alan, thank you very much for the comment. I appreciate you elaborating on the topic, sharing your expertise, and informing all of us that it doesn't need to be long to be functional. Much obliged, sir. I should apply that to other parts of my life. Next comment comes from Jim Harold. He says, I think Adobe is tweaking this feature and it may have gotten worse. Where I've used it and Descript Studio Sound is for my campfire show where we have non-technically sophisticated callers who sometimes don't listen to the audio guidance we provide, and we have to make the best of the audio if we want the experience shared on the show. We were using Descript Studio Sound for this and then changed for a while to Adobe. We've gone back to Descript because it seems like the feature has gotten worse on the Adobe side. My guess is they are tweaking the algorithm constantly and they went too far with it. Also, they need to have a wet-dry dial of some type, like Studio Sound, so you can adjust the level of AI applied to the file. Just my 2 cents. Jim, thank you very much for the comment. I really do appreciate it. Thank you for sharing your expertise and your real-world experience with this AI processing that you have been doing for your podcast. If you don't know, if you are watching or listening to this and you don't know who Jim Harold is, he runs the Paranormal Podcast, and more importantly, for this submission, he runs the Campfire, Jim Harold's Campfire. That's where he has callers, non-podcasters, call into his show and share paranormal experiences. If you want to hear it, jimharold.com. But your comment made little alarm bells in my brain go ringy-dingy-dingy, ringy-dingy-dingy, you must do more testing. And the test that I want to do is, can I mix the Adobe Podcast AI processed audio with the raw audio to get a more realistic and natural result? For this example, I am back in my living space. I am 3 feet away from the camera. I am using the camera's internal microphone. And I will be switching back and forth between the raw audio and the Adobe Podcast audio. And going forward, I will now go ahead and use the raw audio mixed in post with a bit of the Adobe Podcast audio to try to get a similar level, but also reduce some of the reverb and try to reduce some of the noise and get a more natural result as opposed to the overly aggressive, artificial, robotic sound that I hear when you use the Adobe Podcast AI processing. So was this effective? Was this ineffective? Did it sound better? Did it sound more natural? Did it sound funky? Did it change how long the clip was? Did it alter anything? How was it? Let me know in the comments on YouTube. Send in a voice submission, an email, whatever you want to do. Jim, thank you for the comment. Keep up the great work. I was just listening to the Campfire, and because I am so nitpicky, I said, oh, that sounds like Adobe Podcast AI. To be clear, in my review video of Adobe Podcast AI or my demonstration of Adobe Podcast AI on Podcastage, I made it clear, I don't think that it's a service that should not be used. I just think that it's a service that should be the last tool in your tool chest. And I replied to a number of comments because people seemed kind of upset with me for not liking how it sounded. I think that if you're just going to throw away the audio because it's so bad, What do you have to lose? Go ahead and give Adobe Podcast AI a shot. Maybe it will make the audio listenable. It will still be artificial sounding. It will still be robotic sounding. I just don't think it should be your first line of defense. Okay, I'm rambling now. Thank you very much, Jim. Something else. I am back in the studio. Thank you again, Jim, for the comment and for lighting the fire under my rear end to actually test that out. What a fun idea to create a wet-dry mix in post. Get the processed audio, get the raw audio, and then mix them in post how you want. How fun. Okay, my favorite part of the show now, the Ask Bandrew segment. Welcome to the Ask Bandrew segment, the segment where you ask me, Bandrew, and I answer you questionnaire. If you have questions that you want to ask me and have answered, go to askbandrew.com, askbandrew.com, say it with me, askbandrew.com. There are instructions on how to send in audio, video, and text. I do prefer audio and video because then I don't have to read. Let's go to question 1. Video submission 1 from Sir Pete. Take it away, Pete.
Hello, Bandrew. This is Pete from Amsterdam, and this is the SE Electronics SE8, one of the small diaphragm microphones I ended up in choosing for my specific application, which is recording people in a conversational setting in untreated rooms like this one. This is my living room. And I just want to thank you for all the reviews that you've been giving up until now for small diaphragm microphones, because these are specifically well suited for these kind of applications. And specifically people with a little bit less microphone etiquette. So they will be moving around a little bit more. They will be touching the table. And with this setup, I use a Rycote shock mount to make sure touching the table doesn't really resonate into the microphone and stuff like that. So that's really nice. And everything fits into one backpack. I'm using the Zoom F6 at the moment to record everything. And yeah, that's very well suited to record, for example, podcasts or just interviews with all kinds of people. So I hope you like that, and I hope sincerely that you will continue your series of small diaphragm microphone reviews. All right, thank you so much. See you later. Ciao.
Pete, thank you very much for the video submission. There wasn't really a question here, but this is because I saw him post his audio gear online, and it looked so interesting and well put together. I needed to hear how it sounded, and my goodness gracious, it sounds so good. It sounds fantastic. It is a relatively simple and straightforward system, but that sounds great. If you weren't watching, he's running the SE Electronics SE8 about 14 inches from his mouth with the microphone sat on the desk in front of him, angled up. He's running that into the Zoom F6. He has it on a Rycote Envision on-camera shock mount, and he has a Rycote 21/22 baseball windscreen. I am even more excited to continue this exploration into SDCs because they just sound so good. They sound so good. And I don't understand why they're not used for spoken word as much. I understand they are used for overhead miking. They are used for a lot of instrumentation. But why aren't they used more for spoken word? Why aren't they used for singing? Is it something that I'm missing? Because to me, they sound pretty dang good. Pete, thank you for sending that in. I really do appreciate it, even though there wasn't any question. Thank you again. Next, we have a voice submission from Dirk. Take it away, Dirk.
Hi Bandrew, this is Derek. I really enjoy your podcast, especially the episodes where you talk about cheap gear or inexpensive gear and how it should not prevent anybody to produce content. And this idea got me inspired to use a very cheap microphone. I think it's very old and I am not even sure where I got it. I think I found it at my parents' apartment. It's called Sony FV120. I think it's like a children's microphone or maybe for hobby usage. And I couldn't really find much about it online. I think it's from the 1990s or even from the 1980s. It has a 3.5 millimeter TS jack, I think, and I plugged it into an XLR adapter, which is going into an Audient ID4 interface. I am in an untreated room, so it's like a normal living room. So the gain on the interface is set to 90%, and I think you can hear a lot of self-noise from the microphone, but also from my computer, because, as I said, I have an untreated living room and no professional recording studio. Yeah, and I think what I found online, it says it has a frequency response from 60 hertz to only 12 kilohertz. So probably not a great quality from this perspective, but even though I wanted to try it out and just, maybe tell me what you think. In the first part, I didn't do any processing except for boosting the volume. In the second part, I used some stock plugins from Reaper, so some EQ and compression and a little bit of denoise. I was just trying to get the most out of this cheap microphone. So that's all. Thanks, Bandrew. Bye-bye.
Holy smokes. Derek or Dirk, thank you very much for sending that in. What a fun submission. Recording with the Sony FV120 that you found at your parents' apartment. A kid's microphone. I looked this up. I found some specs on some website. I think it was sonyasia.com. And the frequency response, 60 hertz to 12 kilohertz, 3-meter cable, unidirectional, suitable for vocals / tape recorder use. So if you have a Sony tape recorder, this is the microphone for you. It has a wide caliber unit. That's what she said. There you go, Bark. That one's for you. And that's all the information we have. No frequency response graph, no polar pattern graph. The question that you ask is, what do I think of the quality? It's extremely noisy. It is an extremely noisy microphone, an extremely noisy recording. I think it's fine. It's fine. It's sufficient. I think you could get much better audio out of the CAD U1, out of the Samson Q2U, out of the XM8500. But if this is all that you had, it functions. It's sufficient. Once you started adding the processing, it improved the noise floor a little bit, made it more listenable there. It's still nothing that I would personally be thrilled about releasing, because I have much higher standards. I have a threshold of acceptability that is much lower. Or much higher. The threshold is somewhere. You gotta surpass the threshold on one end of the spectrum, and mine is higher than a lot of people's. But once you realize the majority of people who listen to audio or watch videos listen through their phone speakers or a tablet speakers, the fact that the audio wasn't distorting, it wasn't clipping, it wasn't difficult to understand what you were saying, and I didn't feel like I was getting stabbed in the ears, that's why I think it's fine. That's why I think it's acceptable. Nothing I would be okay with. If your content was great, I would listen to it. And I am sure that the vast majority of people, if they wanted to hear what you were saying, and that was the audio you had, I'm sure they would listen to it. So there you go. Dirk or Derek, thank you for sending that in. What a fun and exciting experiment you are running, testing out that microphone. I would love to get more submissions like this where people send in weird and quirky microphones, using them and demonstrating them and showing them off, so we could all learn a bit more about the weird world of obscure mics. Or we could just go watch Bark's channel. Let's just go do that. We'll go watch that. Okay, that is it for this week's episode. This was a rough recording session. Not on my game today, but we got to make it work. All right, that is it. Thank you so much for watching. Thank you so much for listening. I love you. I hope you have an amazing Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday. Next Sunday, I will talk at you. I love you. You are an amazing human being. Talk to you then. Bye-bye. Whoa. Whoa. Woo.
This has been a Geeks Rising production. Your executive producer is Bandrew Scott. For more information, head over to www.geeksrising.com.